Good afternoon. Oh, this thing is loud. Good afternoon. My name is Helena New. I am a senior software engineer at General Dynamics. Before I do anything, is it okay if I take a selfie with you guys? You know you can't say no. Well, this is to prove to my mom that I can do this without going to Harvard. All right. So thank you for coming and thank you for the opportunity. I'm sure many of you here are very interested in the content I'm about to present that has nothing to do with the session title. If it has something to do with it, I was told if you apply as a speaker, you get a ticket. Nice to meet you all. All right, so we're going to go through the agenda. I am fairly straightforward and simple. I would like to start with the introduction. This is weird. I can't see what you're seeing. Hopefully it's the same screen. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I did introduce, and I'd like to get to know you if you want to stay over and talk to me a little bit more. I will tell you a little bit about my journey with Tableau, how I got started, how I am able to take Tableau, embed into some of our current solutions, and challenges that I've faced and how my team and I solved these challenges. And for the second portion of the session, I would like to do a brief demo focusing on user security. More importantly, subsetting something that for a proof of concept. So before I start, I'd like to ask the audience, how many of you has used Tableau Desktop? Wow, okay. Tableau Server? Awesome. Any Tableau newbies out here? It's okay. If you don't know anything about Tableau, we all start somewhere. My journey started about 3 years ago. All right. So why did I pick Tableau? And I started particularly with Tableau Desktop. At the time, I had recently graduated college. Tableau is offering a free license for Tableau Desktop for students. I dabbled with it for a bit. The word free is pretty powerful. It's enough to motivate me and my roommate to circle every single event on the calendar for students. So on campus, for student events, those come with free food, which inevitably became my menu for lunch and dinner. But I didn't choose Tableau because it's free for students. At the start of my internship, I was presented a unique opportunity to present live status update for program financial data. So to our customer, which is more so the government. If you pause and think about this for a moment, what's the most challenging part about that? It's probably not the access to the data, which it could be. It's probably not the status of it. It's more so the live component of your data, right? What does that mean when you say live, a live connection? And that might mean a little different from everyone. So I'll give you some thoughts. Is an Excel sheet live data? Probably not, right? But if you have someone who's constantly updating that Excel sheet on an hourly basis, it's pretty close to live, right? If you have access to that. Vice versa. If you have a database that sits somewhere on your internal network, right? And you have a direct plug-in to it, that's live data, right? But if that database updates every weekend, every 2 weeks, is that still live data? Debatable, right? So these are the things you need to consider when you're designing a continuous integration for this solution. At the time, we picked Tableau Server as well. Due to the sensitivity of the data of the nature, we were asked to take that internal database, blend it with our user security group. So with that, we were able to filter dynamically on the user access for a dashboard. Also, with the option to access that externally. Easy peasy, right? So what we ended up doing was setting up a single node cluster. I don't know if it qualifies as a cluster. It has a single node on our server. And that's our original environment. That might look familiar to many of you, but it looks also a little sad. But it gets the job done, right? You have your every single processes from gateway all the way through to the bottom of license server. This was enough to get you start something, like a dashboard. We were able to take a dashboard, embed that on a website, like on any laptops, or perhaps on a SharePoint, right, for status update. And then you can also have that embedded on any mobile applications, like so. And if you want to take a step further, you can also have it on your watch if you desire. Just this morning, I was able to get a push notification through one of my programs saying that I am within budget, so job security, right? So we started with one program and one dashboard, hosted on one website. We built the financial status dashboard for this program. So this was cool, but we quickly learned that this dashboard can be imported and report just about from anything. We show this live setup internally for our PMs, our program managers, our project managers, along with the watch notification feature. To this, if you're not familiar with the federal contracting world, this is a big leap forward to be able to access your data at all times on any device, no matter where you are. The current situation, and unfortunately a lot of the situation, is you're passing that spreadsheet back and forth either through email or sharing it through a thumb drive due to many security reasons, right? This is a lot easier for them. So once we show this to our team, to our program managers, they were drooling. And we were drowning from requests, that is, to onboard their programs. So the common theme that I hear, the echo back and forth was, oh, I want a piece of that right away. At the time, I didn't realize that our team was on the merge of creating a reporting standard that eventually is the best practice across enterprise. In the beginning, there was some cherry picking for the bigger programs because they have bigger visibility, and that's how you prioritize. But then you quickly learn many of these programs, a lot of these workflows share a similar way of using the same key performing matrix. So for example, you can develop a standardized dashboard that you can swap out the data source. What that means is you can use the same template for many different programs, so you're not doing the same job duplicating them over and over again, right? We also learned it's not one size fit all. Even though it's ideal to swap out data sources based on user role-level security, there's still a level of dedicated tailorization needed for specific program requirements. Also, it wasn't enticing priority to share something that works for your team simply to another team. It wasn't necessarily encouraged from bottoms up. We want to make sure we spread that. And more importantly, take ownership and guidance to cultivate the standard that you create. I'll get into that in just a bit. So with the standard workbook that we designed and created, you can almost kickstart any other program, as I mentioned earlier. You can take the workbook to further enhance something a program or something you have that requirements that's needed. Earlier, I talked about dynamic filtering based on user login. A question that we are often asked, how do I lock down user security in the most efficient way? Although that's a nice way of saying, how do I get Bob to stop looking at my data, right? You don't expect to see someone else's LinkedIn page when you log in with your own credentials. Similarly, if you're dealing with sensitive financial data, PII, your main focus outside the live data stream should be security. How do I lock it down in the most efficient way? We'll keep that in mind for the demo portion, for the subset. Additionally, the more complex challenge was to blend both live and static data. How many of you had to do that? You're connecting to a live data set, but then slapping it on top with another static data because someone else has a more up-to-date version. Your database, due to various of update cycle, may not have the most up-to-date information. Some update once a week. Ours update 2 weeks, if not a month, depending on requirements. So raise your hand if you ever got this feedback. That data set's outdated. Tom just sent me something that's more up to date. Use that one. Oh, by the way, if someone else needs it, go ahead and pass it on to someone else. Email it. So this is like a common theme we have. Thank you for many, many of our daily meetings. You're not necessarily helping that honing of a standard, right? You're taking a step back from setting that environment to pass stored static data. You're also voluntarily opt-in a mindset of, let me email you this large data set. Oh, and hopefully it doesn't clog up your mailbox. And hopefully it doesn't sit in my outbox long enough so that I'm also clogged. But it's okay. The next one come in and we'll just replace it. You see that mindset will eventually become inefficient. So we encourage you to be able to tackle that static data on top of your live data set. And what that does is you can able to share a link to someone else instead of giving them entire data and say, hey, this is the most up-to-date file that's about a gig. Go access your Tableau sites. Go access the SharePoint site that you're embedded on. Additionally, for SharePoint, we find it to be helpful to timestamp how old your data set is. That's not how old you updated your dashboards, right? That's how old your actual live data was last up to date. So you should have a Java plugin, if not a specific field that says as of this date, right? As of today or as of updated 2 weeks ago. So your user have a clear expectation and identification of how old your data set is. The beauty of doing so can encourage you to compare and contrast the deltas. If you have a program that has a forecasting and a budget, right? You can certainly take the most up-to-date dashboard with the both data set live and static and compare the delta. Better yet, you can subscribe to them. Your users can have a notification based on a certain threshold. So to take action on something that looks maybe out of whack. Since then, since our first demo, we've moved on to multiple node cluster, 3 to be exact. We set up environments between development, test, and production. We have full deployment cycles, continued our integration, and continued our demand for more space, and the memory, that is. So that was financial data alone. We also have growing demands from other business areas. Transitioning into business development or human resources, you name it. The goal here, again, is to have your data owners take ownership, right? You give them a data set, you gave them a direct connection. They're the one who knows the data in and out. Have them take ownership and cultivate that standard. Therefore, that's something they're already doing, right? During this journey, I have some challenges to share. I don't know if this echoes with the group, but I hope you can take away with some of the challenges and solutions that we have came up with. Security, that's a big one. You can't you can't make an ad hoc development and say this works for this one person for one solution. It needs to be from a scalability standpoint. It needs to be something well thought of, proved out on a subset, which I'll do in the demo, and it needs to be advertised. That should be your main goal approaching any solution that's doing data status updates. Garbage in, garbage out. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you have tons of different format of the data, unclean data, it is your due diligence as a developer to clean and data prep before making any data feasible, making it any more make sense. I mentioned earlier, not one size fits all. While you have a standard template, you should always keep in mind there's room to grow, there's room for adaptation, there's room for improvement. And sometimes your dashboard may not fit the other ones. This is the big one. Work with your data owners. Why do you guys think that is? Have you ever had an opportunity to sit through a gigantic set of data and just not knowing which one connects with each other, and then trying to email the associated, I don't know, FA or the data owner who sent that to you, and you're tracing it back all the way to whoever sent it in the very beginning? Knowing your data owners, work with them because they know the data in and out. It'll save you so much time to create and design that dashboard on the first try, right? All right, so your data owners will also keep you grounded because between your stakeholders, the one you're building your dashboard for, and your data owner, they will want one thing, but your data owner would say, we have maybe 80% to give you the true results. They keep you grounded and create that realistic expectations for all of your dashboards. Designing with the scalability in mind. Oftentimes we have these ad hoc designs that you're never going to use again. If you have 20 developers doing the same thing, doing similar dashboards across, you're duplicating 20 times across the work while they could be doing something else. User groups. You guys familiar with user groups? I hope a lot of you are part of the Tableau user group. They sync up every once in a while, periodically, either that's 2 weeks, every month or so. That is important to practice and nurture these standards. Why? You're responsible to keep that conversation live, to keep someone interested, right, what you're building. And for best practice, to share your success stories and share your bottlenecks. These are value adds in your growth so that, one, someone wouldn't have to walk the same path, make the same mistake. Two, you're building your network. It is critical to have your user group and hone in with your center of excellence, okay? Another challenge is you should have a consistent advocacy from your leadership. Get your leadership involved. What does that mean? This is as much of exposure to you as their interest to funding your program, right? If they're involved, they can advocate for what you're building to others. Word spreads quickly, especially something that's nice and sexy, like a dashboard that shows live data, right? This is a long journey, right? It's not a single day. Get them involved. You're going to need as much help as you can from them. Again, with a best practice the industry standard. If you don't have one, create one in your company. Tableau is a great platform for both macro and micro level of customization across any application, and it integrates well with others. So I use it. This gives a lot of freedom to explore and a lot of possibilities to tell your data story. Ask questions to data that you already have. For example, I want to know how many candidates are on deck for these recs, open recs, for the next within the 50-mile parameter. What is the attrition rate for the past 3 years? Will I reach ketosis this week at TC19? Probably not, with all the temptations out there blocking the salad bars. So there are some of the challenges that my team faced, and I hope you're able to take some of these back as good practice. For the next portion, I would like to walk through a brief demo on a subset of data with user security in mind, okay? If I stop this, will it stop the presentation?
Not sure.
Okay, great. So long as you see what I see. Okay, great, perfect. So this is Tableau Desktop. I think I have the latest version today. I'm going to connect to 2 sets of data. Before I do so, I do want to walk you through that data so we have a feel of what we're getting into, right? Should never jump into something not knowing what you're working on. I've taken the liberty to simplify a data set that I have with using Active Directory security. This should look a very simplistic version of what your company's Active Directory or other identity management looks like. I've changed a lot of the content to school names, and I've inserted myself as 2 separate users, as one, Helena New 2016, and the other one, YNIU3 at iCloud. So Helena now has 2 accounts within these data set as 2 separate Active Directory users, okay? We'll keep that in mind when we switch between the 2 for actual user security role level. Coming over here, I'm going to connect to that data.
Actually have 3. The same username from 2 schools, 2 employee IDs as well.
I have 2 Active Directory users who has separate granularity on schools. So you can be one user applied to multiple schools. They're two ID. They're both named Helena, but their actual username's different. I can walk you through, certainly. As we pass through. Can you guys see this okay? All right, great. So I imported Active Directory Security. I'm going to rename this to AD Security. Right now, there's no filter applied to it, just a simple connection. We've looked through this. We looked through this data set with a school name, user ID, as well as their employee number. I'm going to add additional data source with the school orders. And here, now I'll remove this before we can pull in the other one. In the school order sheet, you have your corresponding school name, your order date, your regent, the sales rep, the actual item that's ordered, units and cost and total. So you have some dimensions, you have some measurement to validate against. When I pull in AD Security from sheet 1, I've taken the liberty to clean up a lot of the school names, so they should have the both school name for an inner join. So what this does is for every Active Directory, it will match with the school name correspondingly from both of the sheets. So this is a inner join. I'm going to rename this for school orders. And renaming this for AD Security. Right now, without any filters, this is free for all. Any developers has access to this, a very small subset of a school order system, right? What if you want to throw in that role-level access security on top of this? And this is quite simple, where you can make it to proof out the concept. I'm going to name a calculated field, user security. And you're going to match your username from your Active Directory to your user ID for the person who's accessing this dashboard. Once you hit OK, it still needs to be applied. It is a dimension. Now you have options now. You can apply to filters here on the worksheet. What that does is it brings up 3 separate options. You want to select true because you want to make sure every single match for the person who's accessing this being able to see the corresponding data set. Hit OK. Now let's build something. I'm going to throw in school name. Make that full screen. Throw in a couple rep. As well as a total. And let's add some color to it for the actual items. All right, make them show. And then last but not least, making sure the format for this is correct, which should be in $signs. All right, I did not pick those colors. Okay, so we have a Helena's, we have a not Helena News view. This person has access to school, I'm going to throw in a region as well. Has central, east, and west region between these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 schools, right? So let's hone in on one. We'll take the Seattle school, for example. I'm going to log in as a separate person for this dashboard to see what the difference it makes instantly. From here, on the bottom right, there's an option to sign out and sign in as a separate person. What we're doing here is a subset of data testing with user security. If I sign out, what do you think is going to happen? This person no longer has access to any of the data set, so everything is empty. I'm going to sign in with actual Helena's view. Going to go grab my password. They change every 30 days, so I don't know them. Coming right back. That's still not Helena new. I should change a different user. Signing out, signing in one more time as a separate user. So these are your developers on your team who could be working on the same project but see completely different views. All right, so this is Helena new versus the other one who's not Helena new. And she sees something very different. You have different universities from Central, different universities from West. Now you may ask, this user security level is applied at the application. What that means is this little pill here that I'm hovering over, user security, is on your application itself. So a better way to, or a more enhanced way to approach this is have this applied at a data source level before it even hits any application. To do so, you can go to a data source. At the top right, there is a filter you can add. Now, since I've already created this calculated field, you can directly select user security and hit OK. Now watch the screen change. With all of this user data, that's no filter, but now it's filtered on the specific user. And that changes right away for a developer. You can publish this onto your servers. That same rule applies, okay? So what that means is for any developer that has access to this, you either see blank or see the associated dedicated role-level security by your account. And that is your talking point. That's very important when you're talking to your senior leadership. That's what the proof of concept works for them. You can take this piece and make it an impressive sell. So your security network, your Active Directory or other identity access manager is most likely already, I hope, is in place today for your network infrastructure. Take advantage of that fact. Start with something small, like a subset, like one program, right? One program, one project. Proof, write that. Once you have verified the dashboard and the data set, it's much more compelling to show something on your phone with your live program data to a PM and use the famous iPhone phrase, you don't know about this yet, but you want this. All right? In closing, I've shared my Tableau journey thus far. My team have since explored many other tools that complement Tableau's capabilities, such as data prepping, which is another big one. I'll be happy to share more with my contact information here. We have two separate, one's my personal, one's my work, and the other one is dedicated for TC19 at gdit.com. If you reach out, I will send out a one-pager for my program, as well as the takeaways. Tell me your story. I'd like to know you. There's also a survey at your application. If you want to complete the session and survey for my evaluations, I would appreciate that. Thank you for your time. My name is Helena New. Thank you.